What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cultivating Conversations. I'm your host here, Farmer Jazz, bringing you straight up insights from innovators, entrepreneurs, and game changers out there making moves. But real quick, if you're loving the content, make sure you like, share, and hit the follow button. Your support helps keep these conversations cultivated. Now, let's get into today's episode. It's Farmer Jazz here. We in Cultivating Conversations once again. And today we have another great guest, Moha. What's going on, Moha? How you doing?
Doing good, bro. Doing good. What's going on with you, man? How's
Man,
everything?
not too much, man. I got this little sinus infection, but I'm good though. Other than that, I'm good. That's why I sound a little nasally. But
Yeah, it's always the freaking weather, man.
I
You
know
know?
the weather's changing, the season's changing.
Yeah, God saves you from everything but the weather, man. That one is like, deal with that on your own, man.
Yeah,
I
you learn
saved
how
you
to
from everything
you
else.
learn how to transition yourself, man. You just deal with the allergies for a little bit, and then you get back to it. But
Exactly.
it's good having you on the episode, and everybody don't know who you are, so can you do me a favor and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Yeah, so I work in direct sales. Name's Moha Moha, or otherwise known as Mohammed Salat, which is my full name. But I go by Moha Moha because it's a lot easier and it's catchier. In the sales world, they always say the best actor wins, right? So this is why I chose the slogan Moha Moha as a catchy actor name. But yeah, so I've been in sales for, God, since 2013. That's about 11 years. I'm 29 minus 11. So I've been in it since I was 16, 17 years old. And yeah, it's great. Just never really thought that, because I at the time when I was 16, 17, 18, I was just doing it to make extra bread. It was a side hustle. But once I got into it for real, when I was 19, and that's where things have changed. You know what I mean? Within a couple years, I automatically ended up having my own office, and then from then onwards, ended up having my own contract a year and a half later. So within not even 4 years, I ended up doing what most couldn't do in 10, 8, 7, 5 years in sales. You know what I mean? In a matter of years. So we're talking 19 to
Yeah, and
20, you know?
that's part of why I like to have the conversation with people doing many different things. And it seemed like you started into sales pretty young age. What was the driving factor
Good.
behind you hopping into sales? Because that's normally not a
Uh,
an avenue people don't touch until they're like their 20s. What made you get into
Late
sales, or what
20s,
led
yeah,
you
mid
into the
20s.
yeah, what led you to sales?
Yeah, for me, it was wanting to make money. And I always admired my dad because he wasn't in sales, but he was a businessman. So anything he always said, like anything I can give you, you will have to either go get it yourself. So for that reason is why I have always, you know, I guess in a way followed in his footsteps, but me and him are in two different industries.
Yeah,
So sales
that you
can be in
follow the
any
steps.
industry. Yeah, but I did follow the steps, you know what I mean? And he didn't like it at first, but once he saw that I was raking in 5, 10, 15,000, you know, monthly, he just couldn't believe it. And he was like, okay, if you want to go ahead and do it, go ahead and do it. So it was more of what I saw him do. Like there was times like he can choose whatever day he wants to slack off. He could do that because he's self-employed. And I always wanted that type of life. And then there's time, but him, he wasn't much of a slacker, even though he had the opportunity to slack as much time as he wanted. He was more of a caregiver. He always wanted to take
Mhm.
care of people. So for that reason, even though if he wasn't working in his self-employed business, he always worked at the hospital. So it's like coming from both parents that worked at the hospital, and I just didn't want those crazy long hours. Being, somebody sneezing on you, somebody, what I mean, being up and close personal with you. Like, yeah, and I always was the type of kid to like the outdoors. So I knew that if I liked outdoors, I had to do something that involved outdoors. And at the time, sales was like the niche that just came into me out of nowhere. And then from then onwards, the rest is history, pretty much.
Oh, nice. That's good to hear, man. It seems like you caught the hustler bug from your dad.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yeah,
and that's never a bad thing to catch.
yeah,
So
most
you talk
definitely.
about you're in sales. What type of sales do you do? What are you selling? And can you tell
Oh,
us a
yeah, I
little bit
mean,
more about that?
at first I started in the utilities, oil and energy industry, but eventually I ended up, you know, venturing into other types of sales. But we pretty much do whatever like the client asks us to do. So whatever product, whatever fence that needs to be fended and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's pretty much whatever that really
So
gets the client happy. You know.
it sounds like you're fulfilling commercial business needs.
Uh, Sometimes
Mhm.
every contract we picked up, we always like to have a residential agreement and a commercial agreement because we're never gonna know within the land of sales, in the world of sales, you're never gonna know who you're gonna run into, and it's not what you know in sales, it's who you know. Anyone can learn sales in a heartbeat, but if you don't have the right connections, it's not gonna get you anywhere. And that's why I've seen many of my old mentors be washed away. You know what I mean? Because it's always they thought they knew better, but a simple conversation with someone higher up can literally level you up 5, 10, 15 times more than you could ever done in 10 years, in 5 years, in 20 years. You see what I'm saying? So it's not what you know, it's really who you know. It's good to have what you know, but if you don't have who you know attached to it, you're never going to get far in sales. And that's why people don't really, no one really tells them that. Luckily, I had a mentor that did tell me that early on, and a business partner as well that got me into my first agreement at the age of 21 years old.
Yeah, I like that
So,
phrase that it's not what you know, it's who you know. Because
yes, exactly.
it always shines a light on nepotism. Some people have a they don't like nepotism, but I think nepotism is the way of the world. If you know someone that's in a position, they can get you into that position easier than you studying or picking up a book or you just sending an application. That connection that you have with someone else that may be in the industry always is a platform that makes it easier to excel in business. So my next question to you is what's your everyday like day to day business life look like? Like what's the how does that look for you?
Okay, yeah, it varies from time to time. Like just this past week, we was in Michigan, and I had to sign a independent business owner, where what in the sales world, which is called an IBO. So
Mhm.
basically, an IBO is someone who's an independent contractor, but pretty much has a bunch of other independent contractors under him or her. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really. So basically, an IBO can be labeled as an independent contractor, but it's a whole ego and pride thing, and that's why when you're making contracts and sales, you always want to respect people how they want to be respected. Does that make sense? And that's just the contractual terms. But when it comes to the field and getting people ready and making sure people hitting bonuses and requirements and stuff like that, and they're following rules and regulations, that at the end of the day, that comes down to it's not. I'm not gonna respect you because you asked to be respected at a certain way. I'm gonna respect you because you have earned that respect. So
Mm,
the field duty is different than the office duty. The back end office, I can put anything in the contract to make you happy. You know what I mean? But in the field, I have to watch out how you talking to the customers because it's not
mhm,
going to be yo ass on the line. Excuse my French. It's not the person, the IBO or the independent contract that's going to be blamed, but it's really the person who holds the contract, which is guys like me. You know what I mean?
mm,
When I say guys like me, I'm not talking about race or gender or any of that. It's more about, the person who holds the reins type of thing. You know what I mean?
mm,
Like this in a castle, there's always a king and a queen and whatnot and so forth. So basically, in this scenario, the independent business owner will probably be the partner, aka the queen. You know what I mean? The king will be the one who holds the contract. So for that reason, you can respect people how they want to be respected in their own unique, dignified way when it comes to the back end office work. But when it comes to the field work, that's where respect is earned. Does that make
okay.
sense? So there's
I
two
agree with you
types of
saying it's like
respect
a
and
team. It's like a team thing going on. You got someone that's drawing in the leads and a business that's closing those leads. That I mean, a business that that person is
somewhat
closing the
like
leads
that.
for.
Yeah, someone like that, farmer, but it gets broader. That's the thing with sales. That's why I told you it can fit into any industry because sales is literally, you know, people selling things. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, a mindset, a concept, a presentation, a product, whatever you can sell. You know what I mean? That's why there's always said that, every buyer is, every seller is, was once a buyer.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
That's
that
where
makes
the
sense.
slogan goes with every seller that was once a buyer. You will never find a seller or someone who sells anything and they haven't bought anything themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
But
true.
not every buyer becomes a seller.
Yeah, that
Does
makes
that make
sense.
sense? Yeah, it's a reverse psychology thing that people need to learn. Um, and when it comes to sales, and I plan on writing a book on these type of analogies and concepts and stuff later on when I hit my late 30s. But basically, day to day life is simple. It's like, wake up usually between the hours of 4 to 5, have my daily run from 5 to 7, 6:30, depends on how long it takes me to run whatever miles that I want for that day, or that week I want to hit. And then from 7 to 8 is the getting ready process, and then straight from 8 to 9 is where the office is open. And then from then onwards, people just start coming in anywhere from 9:30 to like 10, 11. And then from then onwards, it takes about an hour and a half, have a team meeting, have uh, the riots, I guess it's called in the office, basically meaning the hoorah rahs, getting people hyped up, motivated, ready to get on with the day and so forth. And then from then onwards, around noonish to 1 o'clock, is lunch break. I usually don't take lunch breaks until later on, like late in the evening, somewhere around 5, 4, 6. Um, so basically, 12 to 4 or 5 is saved for recruits, and then 8 to um 12 is saved for the team to get everything up and running, or up to 1. Sometimes we may go as late as 1 for the team, and then have the schedules for the interviews, you know what I mean, around 1:30, 2 o'clock, something like that. And then we may even stay up until 7 p.m., depending on how many interviews we get and how many interviewees come from the recruits. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it all varies the thing, but typically it's a usual 8 to 7, 8 to 5, 8 to 6 type of days that we have. So sometimes we do 8 to 4, 8 to 12, 8 to 3, depending on if it's a holiday, a
Mhm.
cultural break, a tradition, something like that. You know what I mean? Advantage. But
All right.
usually out of 365 days, 340, 330 of those days are usual. Um, usual 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 or 8 to 7. But most of the time, that's how it is. But there's some couple weeks, or a couple days or a couple months where we do take 8 to 3, 8 to 4, 8 to 2. And it all depends also how many interviews come in. Like if one day no interview shows up, then we're good to go type of thing. You know what I mean? We can close up shop at 2, 3 o'clock and hit the field if we want to hit the field, go home to our families, do whatever. Because at the end of the whole point of building a sales career or a direct sales business is to not only recruit but also train those recruits to become either like you or better in the field. You know what I mean? So then you, as a self-employed person, can go back to what you want to do for your life. And this is why for
That
me, I
makes sense.
always pass out. Yeah, I always pass out 80, 70, 90% of the contracts out because I want the person who's not, either knocking on the door or is in the retail shops, you know what I mean? I want that person to make as much money as possible because at the end of the day, it's their time that they're
Mhm.
invested in, you know what I mean? And sales is something so beautiful. If more and more people got into it, especially our race or other races, the less fortunate races, the brown skins, the us, the Africans, if we ended up getting more and more sales, because I've noticed some, our races basically, we have, you know what I mean, the dignified races, like the ones that people talk less about or bad about, we could become so much greater if we understood the power to sell. You know what I mean?
No.
Whether that's a concept, whether that's an idea, or a presentation, a product, whatever it is. Because for me, I learned how to sell back home. You know what I mean? I wasn't even aware that I was good at it. But due to me being raised in America, I've had the pleasure of knowing English. And over
Mm-hmm.
there, back home, English is a dignified language where it basically means you speak it, you're like one of the fortune ones type of thing, you know? So that's what most of my success was back home. But when I came back here, I now was competing with people just like me who knew English and who passed high school and so forth. You see what I'm
Oh,
saying?
nice. So
So
you said
yeah.
back home. So for the listeners, where's back home?
Um, so I'm originally from Somalia, but Kenya is where I learned how to make my first sale
Oh,
in
nice.
East Africa.
I like Kenya. Tapped in with a company, well, not a
Yeah,
company, but a nonprofit in Kenya called
yeah.
BLAP.
There's
They do
yeah. I don't know
farming.
if the
They do a lot
company's
of good
still
work.
there. I'm gonna send you their name and information. I don't know if they're still there, but it was Kenyan money. But imagine raking in anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 a month in Kenyan money.
Mm.
That's how,
That's a lot of
and
money.
imagine you being 17, 18, 19, doing that. You know what I mean? It's like, it's wonders. You know what I'm saying? So for that reason, it's why I always urge our people to get into the idea of sales, whatever form it may be. Commission money is the best money. If you ever want to change your life or your family's life, only way you can do that is commission money or for you to be a CEO of some company. You know what I mean? And that's gonna take years for you to
And
get to that
so
position. So sales is the fastest way. Yeah, go
that
ahead.
leads into my next question. What is it? What part of what aspect of the business is it that like sticks out to you that you enjoy the most? Because it sounds like you got like
And
a long day. There's a lot of training that goes into a lot of. It sounds like there's a lot of legwork in the beginning, but like that legwork
yeah,
is worth it for the ROI that you get the return on, from the commission.
but this is the thing though. So in sales, right, the ROI, the return on investment, that can vary in different things. It could be you getting your back your time, right?
Mhm,
Having more time to spend with family, friends, going out more, having a relationship, building on your marriage or getting married, whatever the case may be, right? And then there's the return on investment in terms of what do you call residuals, right? And
mhm.
then there's the other term of investment called the commission, like how much you're going to be paid every week or every month or every 2 weeks, whatever sales package that you have an agreement with the vendor that you're working with or the client you're working with. Sales is it's not the type of business, bro, to get into thinking that you're gonna ace it. Sales will test everything about you. You know what I mean? It will test your demeanor. It will just test your ego. It will test your pride. It will test pretty much every fiber in your being as a human being. And for the people that are listening that probably done sales and have quit it or whatnot, those people can only blame themselves, to be honest with you. And the reason why I say that is because no one will be a better friend to you than a commission check. That I can guarantee you more than anything. There are times that I've lost tons and tons of family members, friends due to death, illness, sickness, whatever the case may be. But the one thing that always changed stayed the same was $100 bill. Everything stayed the same. That $100 bill stayed the same whether I was 17 years old, whether I was 25 years old, whether I was 29 years old. Don't matter what age I was in, that $100 bill always stays the same. The color or the facial expression of the $100 may have changed over the years, but it was still $100 bill. You see what I'm saying? And this is why I tell people it's scary to get into sales. I agree. It's hard to stay in sales. I agree. And when you end up becoming a trainer or an assistant manager, and the pressure's on you because now you're leading people, as a man or as a woman, you're leading now. So when you're leading, and I believe a lot of people get promoted too easily or too fastly based on the people they know, and this is why it goes against the people that quit. It goes against that because the idea of is not what you know, is who you know. That idea is for the higher ups. Like for example, once you end up making it out and you becoming an independent business owner and you're becoming like the top of the top food chain type of thing, and you're finally able to get your own contract, that's where it's not what you know, is who you know matters. Not when you're an agent, not when you're a trainer, not when you're a team lead, not when you're assistant manager, not when you're a manager. Because those positions are solely there for people to make their money and then once they're done making their money, to go home. You know what I mean? Or to build a team or a business, whatever the case may be. The people, like for example, you will have a friend come to you, you will have a family member come to you will have a colleague come to you, someone you know in your past, someone from high school, middle school, whatever the case may be. They find out you're either being a big shot or you're making good money. They always come to you, say, hey, can you hook me up, type of thing. And this is why sales is slowly um, taking people out in a faster pace. You know what I mean? By simply because those people that come to you, farmer, they are trying to get a favor from you. And in sales, when you paying your friend or your colleague or someone you know, as much as you're paying someone you met off a recruiting site or a recruiter brought to you, that's where your business will not exceed, right? Or succeed, because now you're doing something called favoritism. And in sales, there's no thing such thing as favoritism. The only thing that will favor you in sales is literally that field,
mm,
not the back end office, not the guy you know, not the person who gave you the contract, none of that. The only thing where sales will ever favor you, and it will surprise you with your commission check, meaning you will make good money, is when you are best friends with that field. And when I say best friends, I'm talking about law of averages. When you're
mm.
out there doing consistent, honest work, you're writing down the streets you're on, you're writing down the corners that you worked at, you're writing down what do you call the supermarkets or the grocery stores or wherever that, as a commercial agent you knocked at, or whatever the case may be, or you had a meeting with. The field, aka the LOA, is literally gonna be your best friend. But the problem is people are not friends with the LOA. They're trying to be friends and close friends of the person that holds the contract, or the person that is, the system, what do you call, leader, or whatever, the vice president or whoever. They're trying to connect in with the big people so they can make more money. But the problem is, you can make $200 a sale, but your check is still going to be the same as someone who made $40 a sale, $50 a sale, $30 a sale. Why? Because your work ethic is not there. Anyone can pay you two, $300 a sale, but how many sales you do, how many customers you speak to, how many comebacks you have, how's your LOA, law over averages, per day, per week? That is what's gonna determine your check, not who you know. Who you know only matters is when you're sitting down and signing the contract with the direct client, a Fortune 500 client. That's when it matters, but it does not matter when you're out there in the field. What matters now out there in the field is the customers and your LOA. And how you deal with those customers will affect your LOA. If you're in a good mood, you don't let any customer disrupt you. You got to know the type of customers, things like that. When you knew these type of steps in the LOA process, your check will benefit you. Your check will increase by week, by month, by year. But people don't focus on that. They don't. They're not best friends with the field. When they're not best friends with the field, everything falls down on them. The bills collectors start calling. The people that, you know what I mean, their family members, like the hospital bills. Every single thing is gonna come at them so much that they're gonna end up quitting. But they don't understand that the only best friend you ever need in sales is literally that field, wherever it is, whether it's the indoor retail that you're doing at a supermarket or grocery store, or whatever the case may be, or you're actually knocking doors. You can do door to door. You see what I'm saying? And that's where people mix up, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, so your viewers or people that are listening on StreamYard can actually, and the ones that are already in sales can actually understand where I'm coming from by listening to what I'm saying.
Nah, I get what you're
LOAs,
saying.
yeah,
I
yeah.
get what you're
But
saying.
go
It's
ahead.
like, and it sounds like you could tie that into kind of the structure you had in your day. It seems like that structure of, like maybe my thing is every day I get 10 calls. I meet with, I take touch base with 10 people every single day, and 10 people over 5 days, that's 50 people. So 50 people a week. That keeps business coming in every week for you, whether that's a person you need to follow up with, a person that purchases something, or even a person that lets you know they're not interested. um, you just continue to keep doing that, and that continue to build and build over time. It's like compound interest, what it sounds like. But my next question to you is how did you initially break into the sales industry? What were some of your first steps that you took
Like
to
how
into
I
it?
got started.
Yeah.
Okay, believe it or not, I got started on a Craigslist site.
Mhm.
I didn't know what type of sales I was gonna get into. I don't know what it was. Believe it or not, it took them 3 or was it 4 days to get my background check back to get ended up to get badged with with the client to, and for me the training, it wasn't hard because remember I had experience previously, a year and a half, right, of
Mhm.
sales experience. The only thing that I didn't have, because back then in back home, right, in the East Africa, I'm able to communicate with my people, the people that I'm from, that people, you know what I mean? I'm able to communicate with them in a much easier way because of the language we share. Right.
Mhm.
And I'm able to communicate with you in a better way because of the language we share, which is English. But with them, it's the East African language. So with them, it really matters on who you are and can you speak my language. That's all they matter. Those people in Africa, right? East Africa. But here, it's a whole different thing. You know what I mean? So I had to get retrained on how to do this. And back then I was doing commercial, right? I was, knocking on businesses in East Africa, in Kenya, and Djibouti, and all these other countries, right? So
Mhm.
over here, it's a bit different because over here I'll be knocking doors. You see what I'm saying? So over
Mhm.
here, I had to be retrained on how to do it. And believe it or not, it took 3 months, but by April I was making $1,500, $2,000 checks. You know what I mean? The one thing about me though that kept me in sales, it's really, besides the LOA and besides being best friends with the field, was really my dedication to never quit anything,
Mhm.
right? So if I set my mind to do something, I'm forever gonna be there. You see what I'm saying? Like I'm forever gonna be
So
in that.
determination, resilience. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna still be whatever I set my mind to, and knowing very well the, you know, past arguments that I have with my dad and how yes, I got a good life, but I didn't get the best life. Like yes, we was living in a nice neighborhood, but I wasn't able to get every nice thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it irked me back when I was young, when I was like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, that I couldn't get what my peers or my friends had. The newest phone, the new watch, you know what I mean? The shoes, stuff like that. Like he would get me what up to
You
date
need
type
it.
of thing, but he won't give me the new year. He won't give me the year after. Like the things that came out and in sequence, the things that you have to go to private events to get and stuff like that. I wouldn't be able to have those type of luxuries because my dad believed, hey, if I'm gonna give you a good life, that's more than you can ever ask for. If I give you a great life, you're gonna be spoiled.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things too that I have to thank him for, which I later find out later on when I was 27, 25, 26, somewhere around there. I was finding out, and that's when I really got into the vendor business and ended up, recruiting IBOs and stuff like that. And when people hear my story of how I got into sales and how in America my first sales job was literally from a Craigslist ad, people were like, how is it that you got into a Craigslist ad, emailed, your information to people that you don't even know. You don't know if your information is going to be, taken, your name, your, what do you call, date of birth, stuff like that, filling out an agreement, online stuff like that. You know what I mean? At the time,
Yeah.
though, what I knew that God was on my side. I'm a
Mhm.
strong believer in faith, right? So God is on my side. So for me, I was like, if this ends up being a bad thing and my information gets lost or taken away or stolen, you know what I mean? There's steps. I'm in America. There's steps to get it back, right? There's steps
Mhm.
to clean out my, credit, whatever that I need, right? But then I'm like, what if though that's only 10 or 20% of a chance? And what if 70, 80, 90% of the chance is really me actually succeeding in this and me actually getting accepted and making a, bunch of money out of this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
At,
all
at the
about
time, I didn't
perspective.
know. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's all about perspective. And it sounds like you're very much similar to me. I like numbers, percentages. Um, one thing I got into in college was we watched 21 and learned how to card count and things like that. at casinos. And at first you started off losing little bits of money, like $100 here, but you're having fun. You're having some fun, but it's not always fun to lose. So then you put more time into learning like the numbers of the casino. Like you go into the casino, each game has a different percentage that you're gonna win. Like blackjack's around like 45. I believe roulette has your best chances in the casino, other than poker. So like looking at things like that, when you have the numbers, you move a little different. So like my thing is I always set a time limit going in for 45 minutes, set a 45-minute timer, and if it's if you win, you win big, and if you lose just what you came with, and
Exactly. That right there, that last
you
part,
just stick to the numbers.
you yeah, that last part, farmer, what you said, you lose with what you came with. So I'm thinking I'm just not coming back. I don't have a job. I don't have what do you call any type of investment or any type of inheritance or any type of anything. I'm blank zero. I had a few $100s in my pocket, and that was that. That will last me about anywhere from a month and a half to 2 months, right? So I'm over here thinking the worst that can happen, like you said, is I'm gonna, you know, not lose anything and just go back to how I was, the guy that had a couple $100s. You know what I'm saying? A few $100s. So for that reason, I was like, what can I mean, what is there to lose? I had nothing to lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I didn't have no kids at the age of 21. You know what I mean? I didn't have no, and I still don't have any kids, but at that age, not having kids, because my peers, the same people that were making, getting the best shoes, the best watches, the best video games, the best everything in high school and middle school, they're now either single fathers or single mothers. So
mm,
I'm like, I have a lot to be thankful for. The strict upbringing that I got and the good life that I got from my father got made me into who I am at the age of 21, where I knew right from wrong. I knew that I need to make a woman a honest woman first before she has my kids. Stuff like that. I knew
yeah,
fundamentals that I grew up on,
structures.
right? So yeah, structure. So I had a family structure. So for that reason, I was like, the worst thing that can happen is I'm gonna just quit, or this thing is a hoax and it's a lie and it's a scam or whatever the case may be, and I would just move on. But to my surprise, like I said, 70 to 90% of my surprise came when they were a legit office. They were legit. They had an office. They're a legit company. They had pay cards. They had everything that I could ever ask for, that I need as a support mechanism to get me where I wanted. Obviously, I didn't want to work under somebody, but me starting in the brand new utilities, oil, and energy business, I had no choice but to start working under someone. You know what I mean? But I didn't know how deep that structure was of working under somebody, because that person I'm working under, they work under three other people. You know what I mean? Those three people are working under three other people. You see what I mean? The cycle was where for me to even get to the head of the company, it was like damn near 25, 30 people that were making a check on me that I wasn't even aware of. So
Yeah.
luckily for me, at the time, I focused not on who was making money off me in sales. 'Cause in sales, everybody's gonna make money off you, no matter who it is. It could be someone that's who's making the deal, the arbitrator. It could be that someone like the customer might make something out of it. You know what I mean? Get something out of it, and it's not always financial, right? It could also
Mm,
be boasting rights. It could be ego. It could be pride. There was one manager that did not make a single dime on me, but he was getting credits for every single, he was getting bonuses off every single sale that I was making. You see what I'm saying? Like there's
yeah.
ways and maneuvers in at the time I didn't know, but I later find out when I was 22, 23, 24, I later find out that in sales, not everybody has to be your enemy, and not everybody is out to get you, and not everybody is your enemy. A lot of people don't
Hmm.
know that. You know what I mean? And they just think, oh wow, person's making $5 on me. Oh, this person's making 10 on me, or this person just made $500 bonus on me. Like, why are you worried with the other person is doing? Why aren't you worried with what you're doing? At the age, like at that age, I was 20, I believe 2021. I was making $10, $20 a sale, a customer, but I was still raking anywhere from 600 to 2,000 a week. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so even though I was making a low commission per sale ratio, I still was making bank. You know what I mean? And people don't understand that, hey, yeah, it's $20, $30, it's gas money. You know what I mean? To fill up a tank back in the day, right?
Hmm.
But time is that with the amount of customers? I was filling my gas tank 3 4 times. You know what I mean? It was, and the
Yeah.
bonuses they were giving out, and then the, what do you call it, the leadership meetings that we had. So basically, I was slowly building myself like how I built myself when I was back in East Africa. You see what I'm saying? So things were completely different. But here, I literally was competing. But back home, all I had to say was literally my name and speak the language, and that was that. And a lot of people don't understand here in America, uh, opportunity cost. You know that song, Opportunity Cost? I forgot the artist that made it, but basically that song literally describes the the sales industry.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I could actually search it for you who it is. I have Apple
It's all
Music.
good. It's like a supply and demand, but a
Basically,
lot of what listening to you is, it sounds like, just the way that your life was structured.
yeah,
Um,
G Easy, G
mm,
Easy. He was the guy who made the song. You listen to that song, you understand what a sales agent, a team lead, a trainer will go through on a daily basis with sales, whatever sales they're in, whatever industry they're in, whether they're doing door to door, retail, digital, telemarketing, whatever it is. You listen to that song will get you to understand what it is, and who knows, you might be interested in it as well, because that song is motivating. That was just one of the songs that I loved listening to back in the day. You know what I mean? G Easy, Rick Ross, and that's the other thing too. In sales, you, even if you have, like, say, a spouse, if you have a family member, someone who can motivate you, that would be great. Back then, for me, it was my mother. You know what I mean? Even when I came out a day with zero sales, she will motivate me for the next day, so I make at least 5 or 10 or 20 customers, whatever the case may be. You, in sales, always need something to motivate you. You know what I mean? It could be about a person. It could be the numbers that you're bringing in. It could be your check. It could be your goals, your dreams, your aspirations. Something has to motivate you to stay in sales. And I think the people that quit lose that motivating mode. So when you lose that model of motivation, you're not gonna last long. And this is why sales. That's what you're told. Whoever, whatever industry, whether it's home security, energy, whether it's telecom, whatever it is, whether it's Obama phones, whatever type of sales you're in, the motivational model is literally what you have in your life. Like I said, a person, a dreams, aspirations, goals, whatever it is, you need something to stay focused. And people wash out in sales, no matter what industry, because they lose focus. They will
yeah.
set out in 1 month, say, I need uh, a nice car. A nice car nowadays. Back in the day, you could buy a nice car for what, 2015 car was like what, 10 racks, something like that,
Mhm.
15,000, something like that. And if they set out and they can get that car in 3 months, all they have to do is 3,000 a month. You know what I mean? Outside their expenses. You see what I'm saying? So if you really think about that type, that's a motivation right there. The car itself is a motivation for you. You need to have something to motivate you to last in sales. You know what I mean? To stay in sales, to make money in sales. Because that commission check is beautiful when it comes in on a Friday or a Monday morning. But in order for you to get that satisfaction on a Friday or Monday morning, you need to work from Tuesday to Thursday and Saturday and Sunday. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
it
that's really
sounds like,
how
yeah,
it's
you always got to constantly keep setting goals. Once you accomplish them, set a new one. Keep
correct.
that motivation going. And that's something that's like transferable across like all industries. Because once you lose that drive and that chip on your shoulder, you got to find something else to put there to keep you going. Because everybody has some. We watch a lot of sports and we think about the Kobe's and the Michael Jordans and the guy Tom Brady's. They all had a chip on their shoulder, whether it was Tom Brady being last on the depth chart and being picked deep in the draft, and he had so many people go before him. That was his chip. All the people that were drafted before him, or Kobe Bryant coming off the bench for Eddie Jones, and having to work his time to become who he was, the Mamba. And then same thing with Michael Jordan. Like in his high school career, there was some years he didn't make the team, and he took that, and that was his motivation to never go back to the bench and to be the greatest he could be. And even losing and getting smacked around by guys like Larry Bird, that could be a new motivation. Like as you continue to grow in your career, like you always got to keep the motivation. So my next question to
Yeah,
you though,
go ahead.
um, you've been talking about a lot of the great things that you've been able to acquire and the industry itself. I want to talk about some of the highs and lows because business, there's as you said, there's months you're on and you're clicking, and there might be a month that you might not be on, but like you said before, you got to keep it going. Like, can you talk about some of the highs and lows of the industry and working in sales?
Yeah, so I mean, we all know the highs, right? You make tons of money and you get to do whatever you want, right? But the lows is the getting up every single morning. Some people it's a chore, other people enjoy it. So you gotta understand which one are you? Are you the early riser or are you the late comer? Because you know what they always say, better late than never, right? But that saying doesn't go in sales. You see what I'm saying? If there's an
Yeah.
office for you to go to, there's no better late than never. People back in the day, we used to get penalized for arriving late, and it didn't
Yeah.
matter whether it was raining, it was snowing. They didn't care. You know what I mean? But the one thing that sales separates itself from other industries, and I'm talking like not in sales industrial complexes, is that in sales you could always make your superiors or the people that are above you happy by simply going out and making money. Meaning, if you want, like, there was days like me and my manager, it was just me and him. It would be like, yo, you know what I mean? It's snowy as hell. Why the hell would we drive 20, 30 minutes out to the office when we can just simply knock the street over or do whatever? You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
did, go into grocery store and do retail. You see what I'm saying? There's
Right.
ways to get out of those type of, better late than never scenarios, right? But when it comes to you being an early riser, that's where you make the most money in sales. The person who wakes up before the crowd.
Early
What does it
bird gets
say?
the worm.
Yeah,
Early bird gets the worm.
exactly. That's how
Yeah,
sales work. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
that's a good quote.
yeah, and I guess that's a low. And the reason why I consider a low and not a high is because most people don't have that ability. The ones that do have that ability are forced to go use that ability like by
Mhm.
force, like they. And when I say force, I'm not talking about physically, but I'm saying if they don't go into the office, they're gonna get fired. If they keep coming late, they're gonna get suspended, whatever the case may be, right? But in sales, you could just simply make a call to the office, hey, I'm not able to come in for whatever reason, whether it's the weather, whether it's, you have an appointment, whatever the case may be. You just say, hey, I'm gonna put my numbers out for the day. You know what I mean? And that would be that. I'll see you
Mhm.
guys either tomorrow or whenever I decide to come to the office. That's the luxury of being self-employed. You know what I mean? Which is a high, but at the same time is a low because now you have to manage yourself, which is
Yeah,
another low. The ability to manage yourself. Most people don't have that ability to manage yourself, and that's why you see most people working 9 to 5.
yeah.
Do you see what
I
I'm saying?
always say, like, with the nine
So
to five, you have the comfortability of knowing that you just gotta show up on time and do what's told to you. But when you become a business owner, there's no on time. It's like on time
no,
is
forget
whenever.
business owner, even manager. No, 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 the farmer. It's not even business owner, and like you being on time is you being late, and that scenario doesn't
Yep.
even apply to the business owner or the office owner, whoever. It also applies to the assistant manager and the manager or the team lead
Mhm.
as well. You know what I mean? The trainer as well, because if you are training someone and you are arriving later than them, or you arriving just on time that you said you was gonna arrive with them, they're gonna look at you as a slacker.
Mhm.
Because like, how are you gonna train me when me and you are arriving at the same time? Aren't you supposed to come in before and
Yeah.
do the curriculum of what you're supposed to teach me or train me on today? Stuff like that. These are the type of questions I had to endure when I was young. 20, 21 years old, 22 years old. Had to endure. I had to actually learn how to come early. Because for me, I wasn't an early riser. Now I am. You see what I'm saying? Now you see, you hit me up at 7 o'clock. I was up on a Sunday.
Yeah.
I was up. You know what I mean? You don't see people being up on a Sunday like that. Because for
Yeah.
me, back in the day, I didn't know what a calendar was. The only thing that was circled in my calendar is the day I get paid. That's it. Nothing else was circled. You know what I mean? Because I was eager to make that bread. So Now I actually have the calendar will be booked. Like I have this on Monday, I have this on Tuesday, all the way until Friday. Sometimes Saturday and Sunday I'll also be booked. Like this weekend, I was in Michigan. I was booked out the whole what do you call Thursday all the way to Sunday. You know what I mean? So it's like the lows will be the managing yourself part. Um, controlling your language. You know what I mean? Like the word I just used early in the beginning, like the word ass.
Mm.
That's excuse my French. If you don't repeat that right after with the customer or a client, they're gonna immediately just consider you a disrespectful person, even though that's just how you speak or how you was raised, or like
That's just your
it just came
common
out
jargon.
natural.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Back like in the other places, they'd be like, "Hey, don't say that again," or "This will happen to you." In sales, you could instantly lose a whole customer by simply saying the one wrong word. And that word could be a derogatory word, a profanity word, or it could just simply one word that you shouldn't have said. And that's the thing too in sales. The person who keeps it short and simple always gets the sale. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? That's another thing with the lows. You know what I mean? It's a high too because it gets you to sell, but it's a low because most people don't have that characteristics among them. You
Yeah, I
know what I
like
mean?
that you
So
said that because
yeah.
that's a quote my dad used to always say, keep it simple. And other people they fix it up and they say keep it simple, stupid. Because you don't want to give people too much because then you can confuse them with giving them too much. And when you keep it simple, just give them what they need, cut the fat, and give them what they need so that they can have the
Yeah. Take
information to go forward and make the right decisions. But
yeah.
I got one
Yeah,
more.
thinking
I got
about it
another
like this for
question.
example. Yeah, before
I
you
got
go to
another
the question,
question.
let me
Yeah.
yeah, no, before you get to the question farmer, I want to highlight what you just said, cut the fat. In a food analogy, right? If you are eating meat, you're gonna cut the fat. You're not gonna eat the fat, right?
Yeah.
So for that reason, you're gonna eat what you need, which is the meat and the protein. You're not going to eat the
Exactly.
fat. There's no purpose of you eating the fat. So that's why I tell people keep it short and simple in anything you do. Interviews, you can expand on it. You could talk a little bit more. But when you're in front of a customer, a client, a what do you call a meeting, whatever the case may be in life, you should always keep it short and simple. It gets your points across way faster, way better, and people understand you way easier than if you just keep on talking. Does that make sense? But go ahead with your
Yeah.
next question.
Yeah. So my next question is it sounds like there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. Like you constantly being critiqued. You gotta wake up early. You gotta be on top of things. You gotta be very structured. How do you deal with the pressure and competition of being in the market that you're in?
That's funny you asked the word competition. I was wondering when this question was gonna come in. So when it comes to competition in sales, I don't know about the other industries that don't have sales in them, right? But in sales, it's not really like people tend, oh, I'm gonna compete with this company, and that's the other thing too. And I blame the clients for this, honestly. And the reason why I blame them is like because even they themselves, as long as they've been in the industry that they're in, right? Whether it's home security, telecom, telemarketing, or energy, oil and electric or gas or whatever the industry is, they don't understand that in sales, in the field, the only person you should ever be competing with is yourself. You know what I mean? And even in the office too. You know what I mean? Like when trainers, and this is another thing too, I've noticed trainers, assistant managers, even IBOs, they do competition prizes. And I always ask them this: what is the purpose of doing competition prizes with people when the only thing they should be competing with is themselves, the only person. You know what I mean? So that's another mistake that I've noticed more and more people do. And yes, I did it too. I was one of them. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna sit out here and say I'm a saint. And I had this thing. Like, yeah, it's something that I used to do. But I figured out the way to get out of the pressure of the competition is simply just compete with yourself. If you do five today, do 10 tomorrow. If you made 1,000 this week, make 2,000 next week. If you made 10,000 this month, make 20,000 next month. Always either two, three, four, five, or 10x whatever you did that day, week, month, or year. You know what I mean? And people don't really understand. And the whole frustration comes is people are always wanting what the next man wants. This is why in sales it works when it's you're in the field. So you can tell, hey, so and so, your neighbor signed up, and this is what they got. You know what I mean? They qualified, but I don't know if you're gonna qualify like your neighbor. So if you say something like that to a customer, they instantly gonna be like, wait, hold on, let me go get my bill. Let me, you know what I mean? See how the bill is in the email or whatever the case. They're gonna give you whatever um, form of bill to show you, right?
Mhm.
But when you are outside the field and you're in the office, or you're trying to manage stress, or you're trying to manage what do you call overcompensation and stuff like that, when you're trying to do that, it doesn't really work out like it does in the field. In the field, like you said, it's supply and demand. You know what I mean? You have to
Mhm.
have the supply in order to meet the demand, or you have to have the demand in order to have the supply, or vice versa. So a lot of people, when it comes to that, the questioning that you had about competition and the stress and the things you have to deal with on a daily basis, you should always just strive to do a better you the next day, to be a
I
better
like that.
you the next week, the next month, the next year. And that's where a lot of people fell in. This is why you will see more and more people wash out of sales more than they wash out of college,
Mhm.
believe it or not. You know what I mean? That's one thing you can quote me on. You can see yourself. Ask anybody that washed out from college, just random numbers. Just get 10 people, say how many washed out from college. If five tell you, I promise you in sales, it's going to be 7 to 9.
Mhm.
I can promise you that instantly, because that's just how it is.
And
When
that's
you
just
are
because
not
of the
organized.
and that's just because of the competition they have with other people instead of with themselves. I like that share. But
Exactly. Yes.
so
Correct.
we're going through some of
That's how it
the
is.
ups and
Always compete with
downs.
yourself. Yeah, the ups and downs, like
Not
I said.
yeah, we talked about that. We just
Oh, we
talked
already
about
did.
the ups
Oh,
and downs, and I want to get into some of your future plans and wrap it up with some of them.
oh, yeah.
So,
So,
next question. Hold on, let me ask.
go ahead.
Um,
Go ahead.
what are your goals and aspirations for the future in sales?
Well, telecom. That's the only one industry that I never managed in, or I never succeeded in, because with telecom, it's a bit different, because telecom, it really matters what you and who you know, not what you know but who you know. That matters more than in any oil or energy contract. That matters more than any home security contract. That matters more than any telemarketing contract. Always telecom. So for me, I've had the opportunity. I've made the connections. It's just the amount of work it takes to get into telecom. I might have to sit out a whole year off sales just to get into telecom, because just to get the agreement, just to make the headways, just to set up the franchise and everything, it's gonna cost anywhere from 3 to 6 months of just that, and then another 6 months to a year of getting everything in. You see what I'm saying? So my future goals will be to venture out into telecom, contracts with Frontier Communications and AT&T and all these other telecom giants,
Mhm.
so I can do exactly what I did with energy. You know what I mean? So it all varies on
Just copy and
that pretty
paste.
much. Yeah,
It's
copy
just
and
like a
paste
copy.
basically.
It's like
That's
a
the one.
copy and paste, and then you just factoring in the
Yeah.
time to get to the space that you're at. I like
Exactly. So I'm assuming 3 to 5 years, I should be good. It could take up to. They told me, the experts that I've talked to, they told me 7 to 10 years is what I should be aiming for, not 3 to 5. But they said due to your history and your back history, you might be able to do it in 3 to 5, but it's going to be very rigorous to in order to do it. You know what I mean? That's just one. The other one is I plan on having a hookah spot in every major city in America. And then once I'm done with that, I want to venture out into London and the UK and the Netherlands and stuff like that. And then once I venture out with all that, then I want to go into South Africa and other countries in Africa.
right.
So that is, and I haven't got into CBD yet, or the what do you call the oil industry, but that's another thing too. I want to venture into, hopefully. Um, well, that's three goals, right? The fourth one is to just live a happier life, to get married, to end up having kids of my own biologically. Um, So yeah, that's about it. Because I think I've hold off marriage for a long time, and it wasn't really. I thought at first it was the modern society and everything, but when I really look into it, the amount of time and effort it takes to get into a marriage, and stay in a marriage is far greater than all the nonsense that's happening with the dating scene. You
Yeah.
know, up to today, up to 2024. Since what was it, 2000? I think the dating scenes changed from 2000 to 2005. They start changing all the way up to now. So 10, 15, 20 years, things have changed. But
Nah, I
I
could definitely
believe,
agree with you on that one.
yeah,
Because like having family is another motivator for you, and even in business life. It's just like you got to put food on the table. You got dreams that you want to fulfill. So like putting in that work um helps with bringing that to life. So like you kind of like setting up your structure that you have for yourself before you can start adding people into the life that you want to build this
right.
structure next,
Right.
which
So I
isn't
want to
bad.
be known for something, right? So
Yeah.
when my kids, if anyone, my kids, daughter, son, you know what I mean, if they get into the sales industry, I want them to have the contacts I never had when I was young. You know what I mean? So they're still gonna have to learn the steps, the four, five, and eights. They're still gonna have to learn a lot of things. But once they do, all they're gonna do is just make a phone call, or I do, or you know, their mother does. You know what I mean? And then boom, they're in the highlight of their career. You see what I'm saying? My whole thing, reason I got into this type of industry was to build a better future than what my dad gave me. Does that make sense? What my mom gave me.
That's good.
I want to venture out. Yeah, I want to do it. In a way, I was mad at them for a long time. I'm not gonna lie to you. Since I was like 17, 18, I was mad at them. But once 19 started hitting and I actually got into the sales in America, that's when I started knowing having structure, family structure, having discipline, having strict guidelines helped me surpass my peers back in high school and what do you call middle school, because those same people are now, at the lowest part of their life, and they're the same age as me. Some of them have multiple kids. Some of them have domestic abuse charges. Some of them have things that they shouldn't have had if they had a strict parent, because all they had was a fun dad, fun mom. You know what I mean? Rich dad, rich mom. You know what I mean? They just had a way where they just had an easy life, but that easy life comes with a consequence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the arrest record and stuff like that. And in sales,
It's
and
the
I try to help
intangibles.
some of them. Yeah,
It's the intangibles that are
eh,
highly valuable of
yeah, and
structure that
yeah, and in
helps
sales,
you succeed in life, and not just life but even business.
right, and in sales too, your background is literally what gets you in your door. I kid you not. Some of the contracts that I've signed, you know what I mean, that are paying me very well now, those contracts literally I got in by simply putting my background check in. That's like sometimes that's all you need. And I tried my hardest to help my high school and my middle school pals back in the day, but I couldn't get any of them in because the charges they had was just too much. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And it wasn't like crazy like murder and attack like that. It wasn't like that. It was just things that you couldn't put in the field. You know what I mean? People
Yeah.
that you couldn't trust to knock on a customer's door or to sell something in a grocery market, or you just couldn't do that. Even though with their record wasn't so bad, but the repeated offenses is what got, them rejected by the clients that I have. So it's like, even if someone wants to help you in sales, your record is the only thing that will help you get in the door. If you don't have a solid record, if you don't have a clean record, you can kiss that what do you call sales career goodbye without even like it takes a simple for like background check, maximum a day to 3 days. And then within those 3 days, if it doesn't come out clean, or if it doesn't come out something that, like repeated offenses doesn't is not on there, you can kiss the whole sales career go by. And it's not just that industry. They're also gonna, you know what I mean? Because they're gonna have partners in other industries too. So when you apply with the other industry partners, then they're gonna be like, hey, hold on, didn't you just apply in so and so? Because people talk. The sales
Mhm.
industry is humongous, work worldwide, but it's like I said, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So people talk among each other. So I'll get a phone call, someone I just rejected, and be like, hey, did so and so just come apply at your company? I'm like, yeah, I have his background check. It came back like 3 days ago. They'll be like, well, they just try to apply with me once you rejected them. and me and that competition, me and that competitor have the same client. So if the client rejects my what do you call request to send this background check in, do you think they're gonna accept the competition's background check? They're
Yeah.
not, because it's the same client. You see what I'm saying? And people
Yeah.
need to understand that your record, how you, like how you grew up before 18, they don't care. Clients don't give a damn about that. But once you hit 18 and above, and you start having repeated offenses, charges that you should never have, be in the wrong place at the wrong time all the time, things like that will certainly never get you in the field. And that, in order for you to get a field, you need to go through a background check to get a badge, because that badge is what identifies who you're working with or for. You see what I'm
Mm.
saying? So yeah, that's one of the lows. Having a solid background check. That's, and in America, if you go to the hood, or if you go to what do you call non essential places, you're never gonna have that. That, like, you can't, like in Trenton, for example, in Jersey, majority, even without me even setting an office there, I know 80% of the community is not gonna get a what do you call a badge. You know
Mm.
what I mean? They're not going to be able to come in the office. They're not going to be able to sell anything I give them. Let it be Obama phones, or what do you call the energy, or the home security, or anything, because the background of their 18 to 25, or 18 to 30, or 18 to 40, whatever it is. So in the lows in sales is the background check. Not having a solid background check will reject you of all possible opportunities that you could have had. You could have been an amazing person, you know what I mean? But based on the messed up circumstances you put yourself in, whether that was through a baby mama, a baby daddy, whoever it is, that will affect your chances at having a sales career. The highs, obviously, you have a clean background check. The world is your oyster, literally. You know what I mean? You get promotions, you get bonuses, you get, you know what I mean. In some cases, you even might get residuals, depending on who you're working with. You know what I mean, or who you're working for.
Oh,
If it's not a
that's a good
partnership.
share. No, that's a good share. There's a
Yeah,
lot of good information. You always gotta watch out for the name that you're trying to make for yourself, and always protect that, especially in sales. It sounds like, but I think that's goes for any type of
yeah,
business. You
your
always gotta
name.
make sure
And,
your name is
yeah, but
squeaky.
people can always give. Yeah, but think about it though, farmer. Right? People can always be given opportunity somewhere else. But when you are talking about a product for a company, and you're talking with a stranger, best believe that stranger's first number one thing they're gonna look at or think about is, how did this person get a badge like this? Because people know, well, when you're working at a prestige company, on all you got to do is just Google that company. They got millions of likes on social media, on LinkedIn, on what do you call YouTube, whatever the case may be. Like, they're gonna wonder, how did you end up securing a job like this? Was it connections you had? Was it your daddy, mommy's money that got you in the door? They're gonna wonder. So it's always good to have a clean record when you get into any industry, like you said, but especially in sales, because in sales, customers, without even giving you a second thought, they will judge you right off the bat, just based on how you look, how you dress, you know what I mean, who you are. Some even might be racist to you and just judge you by a color. You're never gonna know. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I always tell people, the other thing too is always dress for success. A lot of people in sales, another reason why they wash out is because they don't dress for success. They're thinking they're coming in jeans is gonna get them that sale. No, you know what I mean. I'm not telling you to put a tuxedo on or whatever the case may be. What I'm saying, dress in a nice way where when someone looks at you, they can see a happy person, where they can see that, hey, you're out to help them. You're not out to scam them. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
that's another low as well. The highs, like I said, you know, dress for success, and the world's your oyster. You could pretty much do anything in sales. You know what I mean? I've seen people go from making measly $500 a week to now racking 10K a week in my company. You know what I mean? So it's all varies on, it's all who you are, basically. It's what you are and who you are and where you're headed and your why. Another thing that people forget, not only sales but any company, is the why. Why are you here? What makes you get up in the morning? What makes you stay? What makes you want to get that check, from this company? What makes you do anything? You know what I mean? The why and the what is really what drives a lot of industries, and people need to start asking themselves, who am I? What am I? Why am I here? These are the type of questions that people need to start asking themselves in order for them to get, their future tense or their future them,
Yeah.
so they can understand it better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So I got two more questions for you. My next question is, looking back, what are you most proud of in your career so far?
Um, I mean, if you're talking about personally, or are you talking about what have been able to do for people? What are we?
It
Are
could be
they?
either or. It could be
Okay.
either or. It's what makes you proud. So,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've changed a lot of people's life by giving them an opportunity they never knew. You know.
mm,
Um. That, and then also the ability just to give. My mom and dad the ability to get what they never had back in the day. Back in the day things were cheap, but the amount of hours they work is still the same as now. The healthcare industry, they work crazy hours, no matter if they're in the lab or if they're a nurse or if they're a doctor, no matter what it is and who it is, they always work a lot. So now being able to retire my mom is something that really, I guess, something I'm proud of. You know what I mean?
that's what's up. That's good to
Um,
hear.
that's one thing, and yeah, I'm just happy for the future. Trying to, you know, I just want to show people that you can go under that 30 for 30, or 30 under 30. I think that's what they call it, or 40 under 40 in a way.
Mhm.
And I'm just striving to hit those goals where 30 under 30 I get selected, 40 under 40 I get selected, 50 under 50, and so forth. So it's for me, it's always about trying to accomplish goals. You know what I mean? That's always what I have been. You know what I mean?
That's what's up.
So what
So
I'm
my
most
last
proud of,
question. Oh,
the
okay. I thought you
confidence,
already
pretty
answered
much.
it. My fault. The confidence. My fault.
No, 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 no. I was just gonna say the confidence, because that's one thing I've learned in sales that I never knew I had. The confidence, but not ego and pride confidence. But I'm saying the confidence, like the ability to be humble, but at the same time know who you are. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good share. So my last question that I always ask everybody that comes on, is to sow a seed of inspiration. There's individuals that will be listening, may want to enter the field that you're in, or just in general, a word of advice. Like, what is something you got for us?
In the industry I'm in, if you don't have patience, I wouldn't suggest you to get into the sales industry first and foremost, because people are gonna piss you off. There are situations you got to know how to deal with people. You know what I mean? As we call it, finesse. You know how to do it finessely without scamming. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like, know how to get your point across without having to do it in an illegal or illogical or degenerate type of way. You see what I mean? So it's really, I would say people need to first get into personality classes, find out who they are, do all this search, go to therapy if they have messed up history back in the day or whatever, and just make sure you are a better you before you get into sales, because sales will test every being of your life. You know what I mean? You like your past, your present, where you plan on heading. There's going to be obstacles. They're just people that you would never thought will portray you. You know what I mean? Whether they work with you, they work for you, whatever the case may be, things will change once you step into sales, because it's a different beast. This is why we use the rhino as an animal, as a slogan. You know what I mean? The rhino is who you need to be. You know what I mean? As an animal. In sales, you don't need to be a lion. You don't have to be a lion. You shouldn't be a lion. What you should strive to be is a rhino, meaning no matter what comes at you, you're always determined to succeed at what you're planning on doing that day, that week, that month, that year. If you're not a rhino, sales is not the career for you. If you're not the type of person to make sacrifices, sales is not the career for you. And then the other thing as well, I mean, I think right now some marketing companies are planning on, and already have done, I guess, the childcare stuff. Like, so if you have kids, you can get into sales, but remember that they are your why. At least I hope, if you're a single mother and a single father, your why will be your kids, right? So for those type of people that are parents, young parents old parents, whatever the case may be, know your why before you get into any sales career or any sales job, or you go into Craigslist or do whatever, or you even contact me, because these are the type of questions that what the interviewees or the hirees or whatever, we will ask you. You know what I mean? Like, what is your why? Why are you here? Why do you want to work here? There's millions of other companies. There's millions of other industries. These are the type of questions you need to learn how to answer. And simply saying, I love making money, it's not going to get you into the door. It's not going to get you a badge. It's not going to make us run your background check. You see what I'm saying? Like, we have to understand you as a being, as a human being from God. So, for that reason, you need to know you better than anybody else. You know what I mean? If our questions determine that you don't know yourself, you're simply not going to get hired. Whether that's my company or any other sales company. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you for that share, man. That was a good bar, man. I like the rhino portion. That was a really good that's a because rhinos they run through into anything, man. They're like a ram.
Yeah,
Just
the ram or
instruction
the
is just like
rhino. Yeah,
straight ahead
no matter
momentum.
what.
Yeah,
Yeah, no matter what.
straight
Straight ahead.
ahead. No left and right, no juking, no agility, but just that
Yeah,
straight
no
ahead speed and
shortcuts. Yeah.
speed and power that's aimed at whatever in front of them. So I like that one. And I thank you for the interview. This has been a very informative for me. I've enjoyed listening and hearing about what you got to share. Before we close out, do you have any places where people can tap in with you, or if they're interested in anything that you had to offer today, where they can come find you and maybe ask some more questions?
Yeah, we're on what is it called? You could just tab me out by my email, msalad at masmarketing.us, or if you want, you can tag me at my email, not my email, my Facebook, which is my first name, last name, MohaMedSalad, or you could simply hit me up on Instagram, which is Moha Bossman, which is MohaBossma with a double N at the end. I try to be unique, so not to
Nah,
put
I
the
appreciate that.
just the one.
You
Yeah,
got
so
such
those are the
several
ways you can
parts.
contact me. Yeah, those are the ways you can contact me. And also have a Google Voice number that anyone that contacts me for either a job or whatever, we can set up interviews. And that number is 443-863-9887. So you can just send a text. You can say, hey, I heard you at Farmers. Podcast, and I want to get in sales, whatever the case may be, and I'll send you the right curriculum to listen to and what to, the things that I wish I had when I was young. Because I always want to advance people in a faster pace. I don't want people to be the snail I used to be, or to be the turtle I used to be. You know what I mean? I want people to succeed at a faster pace. And the more I can do that for people, it's something that I will also be proud about. You know what I mean? So those are
Yeah,
the
that's
ways
good.
that you guys can reach to me. But
Well,
one
y'all got
thing
it
I
there.
always tell people, no matter, yeah, the one thing, last thing, and the only thing I always tell people: know yourself better than anyone else. Because if somebody else knows you better than you, they can find millions and tons of millions of ways to destroy you. You know what I mean? God is always great, but God can't help you if you can't help yourself. You know what I mean?
I like that one. That's a good one to end on. And that's been Cultivating Conversations with your host, Farmer Jazz and Moha Moha. Thank y'all for listening. I appreciate you for coming through, Moha. And bye for now.